If it was up to me, I would have a little more free time today to be able to finish editing the Godzilla King of the Monsters video that I've recorded and started editing, but I've got things that I need to do today, so I'm going to record this instead because this won't take me nearly as long to do. I'm going to review John Wick Parabellum, John Wick 3. Oh my god, I just watched it last night and I gotta talk about it. What's up everybody, D-Man back, welcome to a brand new video, and yes, it's like I said, I'm gonna start reviewing the movies that I watch in theaters now, so this is just one of them, so get used to it. John Wick 3. First of all, don't go into this if you haven't seen John Wick 1 and 2, I'm talking the movie. Don't go into the movie if you haven't seen the first two. You're gonna want to watch them, because they're important, and they're good, they're really good, so just watch them. And also, maybe you want to have seen them if you're going into this review. I don't know if there's gonna be too much spoilers in this, but yeah, there kind of is, so there's spoilers for John Wick 2, not 3. No spoilers for John Wick 3. John Wick has got to be Keanu Reeves' best role, just hands down. Like, I've seen Keanu Reeves in a few other movies, The Matrix, Point Break, he was in that, right? And then he's Bill and Ted, of course. He's in Bill and Ted. You know, he's kind of notorious for not being a great actor, but still somehow being really popular. These movies, like, he doesn't really need to be a great actor. He just needs to kick butt, and he does a great job at that. He's so good in these movies. I love it. This picks up right after John Wick 2, so you're just going right into it, right into the action, and it blends perfectly with John Wick 2. Oh, you feel it from the moment the movie starts. It's intense, and like I said, it goes really well with the others. It's just a really solid trilogy in terms of tone. They never have a movie that's tonally off from the other, or at least they haven't yet. But this movie, it drops you in. It's the exact opposite as what I said with Detective Pikachu, where I was like, they treat me like I'm an idiot, like they're holding my hand the entire movie, like I can't figure it out. Where in this movie, they're like, we do not help you in these John Wick movies. You are gonna figure this out on your own. There's so many organizations and different groups of people with all their own motivations and agendas, and they never tell you what anyone's motivations or agendas are. They never explain what anything is. You just figure it out as the movies go on. Like, there's never a scene when John Wick enters the hotel in the first movie, you know, he never enters the Continental and goes, all right, so these are the coins that I get for being a contracted killer, and I'm going to use them here now to do that. They never do that. They just, you see it in action and you learn naturally as the movie goes on, which is great. You know, you're learning as the movie goes, you're learning through the characters' experiences. They're already experienced with all this stuff, and I think that's a great way to tell a story. It's really cool, and I love it. I love that they don't hold your hand. One thing that I don't necessarily love, but I also love, is that these movies really point out how twisted of a person I am. Like, I never realized how messed up of a person I am until I was in that theater last night, just rooting for all these creative, horrible ways that John Wick is gonna kill people. Like, I'm sitting there going, like it's a horror movie, like it's Jason Voorhees, like, oh, like, there's not, but grab the pitchfork, use the pitchfork, oh, he's gonna do it, he's doing it. Like, that doesn't happen in the movie, but that's the kind of thing where it was like, I was getting so into it, and at some point in the movie, I was like, I really shouldn't be enjoying this as much as I am, but I do. This movie's hilarious. It's like a dark comedy. The whole theater was really into it. You could just hear people gasping, like, oh my god, they actually went there. They did that. People were really into it. And every time John Wick just is beating down on someone, everyone's just cracking up. It's hilarious. It's so enjoyable to watch him beat down on these people and kill them in all these horrible ways. It's amazing. All right, let's run through the 4 category steps here really fast. The story. How's the story? Well, the story of this one is basically just John Wick is on the run. His luck is out. he's got no help from here on out. There's a huge bounty on his head, and he has nowhere to turn. And that's where the movie drops you. And they put him through the ringer in this one. They certainly do. This movie starts out with a bang. The best action scene of the movie's right at the start. Well, actually, there's like a set of action scenes at the start of the movie. All of them are amazing. Best stuff in the film right at the start. The second act drags a little bit more than a lot of people are admitting, but it kind of does. It was like I really wanted to be invested in it, which sucked. I was like, oh, come on, let me care. But I just couldn't bring myself to care about a lot of what was happening. There's a new character you meet, and you spend a lot of time with John Wick and that new character, and I was like, I find myself more interested in what's going on with the other characters, like the side characters from John Wick 1 and 2. I'm like, I find their struggles at this point more interesting than I'm finding what's happening with John Wick. So let's get back to the cool stuff with John Wick. Not necessarily the action stuff. I don't need an action scene to keep me entertained, but I'm like, let's get him to do something interesting at the very least. And I think the second act drags a little bit. That's not to say that it's bad, it just drags a little bit. There is still a great action set piece in it. And then the ending is amazing. It's an extended action scene with a lot of different phases to it. Really, really cool, really creative. I just loved it. They don't top the intro, but they get really close. Like, this ending is really good. So how's the action? That's what we're here for, right? We're here for the action. This is what we come to the movie for. It's amazing. It's so good. It's nothing like Mission Impossible Fallout is the only other action movie that I can think of that I was like, whew, in terms of fist to fist, I guess Winter Soldier, right? In terms of fist to fist stuff, like, this tops it. Because if I'm going action in general, I'm like Endgame. I liked Endgame way more than I like John Wick 3. But if I'm going like action in terms of like fist to fist, kind of keeping it in vein of like spy stuff, Mission Impossible Fallout, I don't think it would ever top that. There's no action in here that I was like, whoa, it was better than that. But there's a lot of really cool stuff, and it's like a different kind of thing, right? Mission Impossible is much more of an action-oriented franchise, where this one's more of a grounded action type of thing. And if you're familiar with the franchise, you can understand what I'm saying. But the action in this movie is really good. It's got all the knives, all the flips, all the kicks, all the tech, and all the gore you could possibly want in a John Wick movie. It's just, they do a great job. Oh, and there's so many great memorable action sequences throughout the movie as well. In particular, there's a knife fight that is just hysterical. It's so crazy. I love it. Everyone in the theater was cheering for that. It was so good. And then there's a part in this where it's like, hey, remember that really cool mirror maze from John Wick Chapter 2? Well, we do too. And then they top it, and it's just so good. It's so good. Remember when we all thought it was cool that John Wick could kill a couple people with a number 2 pencil? After the first scene of this movie, you're not going to remember that. He does something like right away in this movie that you're like, nope, that's no longer impressive. It just isn't. Compared to this, how about the special effects? They're really solid. They are. There's not a lot of visual effects. It's mostly just genuine special effects. It's mostly a lot of real stuff. You can tell there's some CG enhancements and some CG animals, I guess. But a lot of it is real. Like, there's some dogs in here that are like real stunt dogs, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. You got like John Wick's on a horse at one point, and you're like, no, that is a real horse. He's actually doing that. Keanu Reeves is actually doing that. So they have a lot of really impressive practical effects, which I love, and it all looks amazing. It's got great choreography, which helps, right? That's what you want to see, is great choreography in an action movie like this, and it is really good in this movie. Very impressive stunts, although once again, nothing that will top a Mission Impossible movie. That's not the point of this film. Mission Impossible, that's kind of the point, is the big stunts. And then there is a really clean way of shooting that the director does for this movie, that helps you follow the action during all this stuff, so that the special effects and the action and everything blends together really well, and you can tell what's happening without getting shaky cam or blurry or disoriented. It's really good. The soundtrack in this movie, it's done by Tyler Bates and Joe J. Richards. It's the same general soundtrack from chapters 1 and 2. I mean, I like it. I think John Wick has a really cool theme song, but I just don't think it like stands out as like, oh man, that's a soundtrack that I can hum, or like that's something that I'll remember going forward. But when I hear it in context, I'm like, yeah, it does its job very well. In terms of the movie, it serves its purpose very well. This movie is also just visually beautiful. It is, and that's one of the great things with the John Wick films, is they all look great. They have a great color palette, especially chapters 2 and 3 have a great color palette, and everything looks really clean and really cool. I love it. It was directed by someone whose name, guess what? I can't pronounce it, of course. Chad Stahelski. I'm just gonna skim over that last name. He kills it as director for all 3 movies. I know he co-directed the first one, but he did 2 and 3 on his own, and he did a great job with them. Also, the reveal of why the title of this movie is Parabellum is such a cool moment. It is. It's a really awesome moment, delivered by my favorite character of the movie. So I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Overall, what do I give John Wick 3? Well, coming off the 6 that I gave Detective Pikachu, it's like, this is a huge step up. This is a 9 out of 10. This movie's awesome. Again, the only thing that holds it back is that second act does drag a bit more than it should, you know? But overall, it's a great trilogy. It really is. The John Wick trilogy is really solid. They don't need to make another one, but can they please? I really want to see where it goes from here. I'm interested. You got me hooked, guys. You got me hooked with these first 3. I want to see more. Just make them as good as these ones, and they'll be great. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. D-Man out.